Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. We are live on Rumble, live on Twitter, live on Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can ever imagine. Of course, we are so thankful for the producers over at Died Suddenly. TJ is producing the show today. We are platforming on the Died Suddenly platform on Twitter, as well as YouTube, Facebook, Substack, you name it. Thank you for all of you who are tuning in today live. Zen Woman, thank you so much for being on the live chat. Thank you for smashing the thumbs up right here on Rumble. We have the best live chatters in all of Rumble. I see you, CJP Rumble. I see you, Opossum King. Great to see you. Buskman is with us, of course. Bill Benz is with us. Seawave7, great to see you on the live chat. Haven't seen you on the live chat before, so welcome. Brandon Bennett is with us for a second time on the live chat. A new face. Great to see you, Brandon. Scott Gordon is with us as well. And of course, Guitar Lily with the first comment of the day. Looking forward to this one. I've been wondering what the heck Candace Owens has been doing lately. Who cares if Bridget McCrone is a man, right? We're going to talk about Candace Owens today. We're going to talk about Nick Fuentes today, someone that I have desperately tried not to talk about over the past 12 years of my career as a commentator and independent analyst. And yes, however, he's thrust into the mainstream now. Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes yesterday. It was all over my Twitter feed. Apparently the algorithm is strong. Yesterday, all I saw was Candace Owens declaring war on everyone and Tucker Carlson grooming us to accept apparently Nick Fuentes, who is, I don't even know what to say. We have clips today, lots and lots and lots of clips, 3 of them from the Tucker Carlson interview. I did watch most of the interview, not all of it. So my analysis is not going to be complete today. And I didn't even want to do this today, honestly. We have a lot to talk about regarding the economy, but it is a flaming dumpster fire. There are so many agent provocateurs out there that I believe are designed, they are platformed, they are promoted, they are thrust into the algorithm. Do you ever wonder why Nick Fuentes is so popular on Instagram while young white men across the United States of America are flocking to his clips? They think they're funny, they think they're provocative, whatever it is. Well, that wouldn't happen without the blessing, of course, of Mark Zuckerberg, who is the CEO and founder of Meta, which owns Facebook and also Instagram. And you don't get the algorithmic preference on Instagram unless it is blessed by Mark Zuckerberg and the censors over on Facebook and Instagram. So here this guy, very similar to Andrew Tate. Remember when Andrew Tate, the self-admitted pimp, pornographer, and child rapist, was all of a sudden getting 10 million views a week on Twitter and on Rumble and other platforms. And everyone was just absolutely shocked. How can this? It's because this guy is appealing to young white men who are marginalized. They're sick of the woke leftist culture on American college campuses. And so they're flocking to Andrew Tate. No one's flocking to anyone. These are algorithmically created entities that are a bizarro version of conservatism or America First, or I don't know what it is. Some Nick Fuentes claims to be driven by his America First ideology and his Catholicism, which makes absolutely no sense. He doesn't explain any of that in any real detail in this interview with Tucker Carlson, but he does make sure to slip in the interview that he loves Joseph Stalin and celebrates his birthday every year. So this is where we are in the United States of America, in the media today. It is a flaming dumpster fire. And every so often, I think I need to come to all of you and make sense out of all of this. If the federal government or the CIA could create the very perfect agent provocateur, we would be given Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. Okay. And while I understand it's difficult to look away from those dumpster fires, I would suggest as many Americans do so, because there are major events transpiring in this country today that will actually impact you and your family. Every time you go to the grocery store, every time you try to educate your children, if you're trying to buy a home, if your children are trying to buy a home, if you're trying to get ahead today in the United States of America, all of that is being ripped out from underneath you. The rug pull is intense, and major economic headwinds are coming this way as BlackRock buys up suburbia, jacking up prices artificially so that regular Americans can't buy homes, and so that the 21st century reality for every American is a rental society, a renter society. We also have farmers and ranchers who are revolting against Trump's tariffs. They're being crushed by the tariff actions and the volatility inflicted on this market, in this economy, by the President of the United States of America. We have clips on that today as well. And we have news now that Amazon is chopping 30,000, starting today, corporate jobs. They're cutting 14,000 management roles and 34,000 operational roles starting today, following UPS also cutting management roles and operational roles, 44,000 jobs. We have Paramount cutting 1,000 jobs, Target laying off 1,800 corporate employees, and Rivian Automotive also laying off. Hiring is at its slowest pace now since 2009, which we know was the year after the housing collapse. So there's a lot going on, and no one's talking about that in conservative media. You won't hear about that on Fox News or Fox Business. You won't hear about it on right-wing talk radio, because everyone is celebrating the phantom golden economy with Trump at the helm. And now we are being forced to analyze the likes of Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens. So the purpose of this today is not for you to focus on these characters. It's for you to understand how they are created, how they are used to distract and divide the United States of America, but also the conservative movement, which, by the way, Nick Fuentes admitted in the interview with Tucker Carlson very early on. He said his mission very early on was to destroy the conservative movement, right? Because it was in the way of Trump's America First movement, which is, make no mistake, a version of Christian nationalism and quasi-fascism. Very Hitler-esque, which is not surprising because Nick Fuentes also loves Hitler. And we'll see that video today as well. So why are we being groomed? I come away from this. I like Tucker Carlson, and he does good work. He interviews people that I think are very important and need to be interviewed. People like Naomi Wolf and Dr. Mary Telly Bowden and Catherine Austin Fitz, who are regular contributors on the Shannon Joy Show, and I appreciate him for that. He has interesting interviews. I found the Nick Fuentes interview to be interesting. But what is the larger picture here? I came away from that interview feeling as if I were being groomed to accept this false, fake version of conservatism or right-leaning politics, the Nick Fuentes brand, which is completely bizarre. It's not rooted in any type of ideological principle. It isn't really even rooted in Judeo-Christian values. It's some warped version of Catholicism, I suppose, though he didn't really say much about Catholicism. He said a lot of things that I think that right-leaning people or Christians would like, but a lot of things that were just outrageous. It was confusing. It was chaotic. And in my interpretation, after 12 years of analyzing politics and after almost 50 years on this planet, I have learned when things are coming at you fast and furious and they are confounding and confusing, it makes no sense. That is the first clue that you are being manipulated and targeted. And so I'm not buying Nick Fuentes. I'm not buying Candace Owens. And we were able to avoid discussion about Nick Fuentes until now because, of course, Tucker Carlson is normalizing him and presenting him to so-called normal audiences, which I have a problem with. I have a problem with the bastardization of Christianity. I'm not saying that Tucker Carlson is doing that, but we're seeing that in all of these massive organizations like Turning Point USA, who are using Christianity and using scripture and using the Jesus Christ style deification of Charlie Kirk to raise tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on a regular basis. I have a problem with that, right? But now Candace Owens, another Catholic Christian, is declaring war on TPUSA because apparently TPUSA is responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's the other crazy we have to deal with today, right? Candace Owens coming out and declaring war. I don't know why this is all like dumped into my Twitter feed yesterday, but I'm sure that if it was dumped into my Twitter feed, all of you are seeing it as well. And I feel like we need some sanity here. So I'm going to try to do that today in the first half of this program. Second half, we are going to get to the economy. Very important economic numbers coming out. Inflation up across the board. This is posted by Jason Bassler. We'll look at that. The job cuts. And also what BlackRock is doing and driving up the prices of homes is actually something that every American needs to be concerned about. It is the market rigging, the creation of monopolies and cheating in order to push regular people out of any type of economies of scale. And they're doing it with not just the housing market, but other markets as well. So we're going to look at private equity. Very, very good thread from Anna Matson on Twitter, featuring a really brilliant market analyst named Tiffany Ciccone, I think is her last name. I'm probably butchering her last name. But she had a tweet, an example using fire trucks, of all things. But, it's a good, informative example. But this thread is on private equity, rigging markets, and 21st century monopoly making. It has broad economic impacts like inflated prices and supply shortages is what I pushed out on Twitter yesterday. And the core of the thread that was pushed out by Anna focuses on the crisis of the fire and ambulance truck manufacturing industry, where private equity-driven vulture capitalists are coming in, they are consolidating, they're spiking prices, and they're creating massive backlogs and also endangering public safety as they're cornering the market and creating a monopoly. And so this is systemic, it's systematic, and we're going to look at two examples. We're going to look at exactly how BlackRock is rigging the housing market and exactly how these corporations, many of them tied to the federal government and the politically connected in Washington, D.C., are going in. I mean, this happens in insurance. It has happened in education. It has happened in healthcare. It's happening now in the housing market. It's happening with farming. We're watching the consolidation of power and monopoly creation in sectors across the country. And it is only getting more and more corrupt. And this is why everything is more expensive. This is why you cannot get ahead. This is why we are increasingly living in a debt-driven culture. People can't get out from underneath it, and it's very difficult. This is the stuff that people should be focusing on. This is the type of stuff that I wish more conservatives would focus on. Instead, it is, the conservatives are now becoming irrelevant, and you're seeing now elevated this bizarro con grouping, the Groypers, the Fuentes national Nazis. I think he likes Nazis. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Sleeping Giant 111, Candace Owens is central casting. And yes, it is absolutely a show, in my opinion. Personally, I think that these people, and I don't know how extensive this is, and I just get the sense that they are given the platforms, they are given the algorithmic preference, they are elevated so that it's like, okay, this is a great example of when you think about the people that you are front facing every day in conservative media. When you turn on the radio, you hear them on all the major radio stations. If you're on social media, they get the algorithmic preference. If you're watching old fashioned television, they're the ones with the evening shows and all of the best time periods, right? So these people are put in these positions, and it's very similar. Doesn't mean they're any better or smarter or more talented than thousands of other commentators out there. what I think is different is that they're willing to play ball, and they're willing to say what they are told to say, and they're willing to play the character that they are meant to play and told to play. And if they agree to play ball, well, then they make a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars, and they have massive organizations. And Nick Fuentes, being the lead fascist Nazi who loves Hitler and Stalin, I guess, and is acclimating millions of young American boys on college campuses to his version or his ideology, right? It's why he has a massive organization, a nonprofit, and a huge staff. And it's also, as I mentioned, getting algorithmic preference on Instagram, of all places, which is supposedly supposed to be a left-leaning platform, but they just love themselves some Nick Fuentes. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack here. And we're going to try to unpack some of it using some of these clips today. And then we'll get back to the news of the day. Tomorrow, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, of course, we have our friend, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, who will join us on the Shannon Joy Show and her show On Call with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. So we can look forward to that. And on Thursday, I believe we are going to be looking into the Reiner Fulmick situation with an advocate of Reiner Fulmick. We're going to spend an hour on that. He is one of the original medical freedom warriors. He's languishing in a prison, and they are saying that he's being tortured in that prison. And so we're going to look at that. We're not going to forget those medical, he's not a medical doctor, he's an attorney, but those medical freedom advocates who stood up in the dark days of COVID-19 lockdowns. By the way, we're not talking about the democide of 2020 and 21. We're not talking about mRNA technologies. We're not talking about the turbo cancers and the fertility catastrophe that is coming to the United States of America and Western democracies because, well, we put the guy into the Oval Office who did it to us in the first place. And so all of that essentially is off the table for discussion. We're going to keep that on the table. And so is Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. So we do have a lot to get to today on the Shannon Joy Show. But first, I want to thank one of our sponsors, and we're going to go to a quick break. And then we're going to come back and dive right into the agent provocateurs, the elevation of Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, and how they are detonating real rhetoric and conservative rhetoric, distracting people from what is really happening and really, engaging in the soap opera. So we're going to look at that today. But first, let's talk about Vive Biotics. If you guys are like me, you have dealt with bloating, low energy, or just feeling off in the gut. And as you know, I've been focusing on my gut over the past 3 months, and I can't believe the difference that it makes for me. When you get to that good 85% to 15% good to bad bacteria, you feel so much better. And the first thing that you will notice is a flatter stomach, less bloating, and loads of energy. So I know I'm not alone. And the key here is that your gut is the master switch for so many things: your digestion, immunity, and even your mood. So here's the crazy part. Most of us have way too much bad bacteria and not enough good bacteria in our gut. And this is thanks to all sorts of toxins, right? In the atmosphere, land, food, water, you name it, processed foods, stress from the news cycle and the news of the day, and even things like tap water. So this imbalance can mess with your digestion and make you feel sluggish. It can cause skin flare-ups and even impact your focus. And so this is why I'm such a huge fan of Vive Biotics. It has 15 probiotic strains plus prebiotics designed to survive your stomach acid so that it can restore balance. So a lot of the prebiotic and probiotic pills out there don't make it past your stomach and into your intestines where they can do the real work. So Vive Biotic is patented. It is an amazing product that is designed. It's in a liquid form, so it can pass through your stomach and do all of that great work in your intestines. So it has the 15 different probiotic strains, plus the prebiotics and that special fermentation process that makes it completely unique. So right now you can try Vive Biotics by going to their website. It is www.perfectorigins.com/SJS. SJS-VB. That is www.perfectorigins.com/SJS-VB. You'll get 25% off your order when you use that promo code JOY at the checkout counter. So I'm a huge fan of Vive Biotics. I'm using it now. My gut has never felt better. Immune system is working. The bloating is gone, and you guys are going to love it too. So TJ is going to pop that up into the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show at Perfect Origins. And we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, I have lots of clips. We're going to go through Candace Owens and the interview that everyone is talking about, Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. Yes, I feel like I was groomed to accept this radical, I don't even know what to call him. I don't know what his ideology is, but I know it's not mine and I don't share it. And so I think we need to alert as many people as possible to this. So let's hit that quick break. We'll be back in a minute to continue the show right here on the Shannon Joy Show. One of my favorite products that we have been talking about for a couple weeks here is an amazing product, Blood Flow 7. This product is absolutely amazing. And listen, if you have bad blood flow, if you are not having oxygen delivered throughout your entire body, there are many symptoms that can occur as a result. And one of the biggest symptoms is poor circulation. And so this happens when blood flow to certain parts of the body is reduced. And this can cause things like coldness or numbness, tingling in your extremities, a swelling in the ankles, legs, or feet, varicose veins, slow healing wounds. A lot of this stuff happens as we age, and even hair loss. Other symptoms of bad blood flow could be dizziness, lightheadedness, obviously fatigue, muscle cramps, pain in your legs, especially when walking, and bluish discolorations of the skins. These are indications that you might not be getting enough oxygen and your blood flow might be impacted. Now, this happens when you don't have enough nitrous oxide. And nitric oxide is a gas that plays a absolutely crucial role in regulating blood flow and making sure that oxygen gets delivered to every cell in your body. When that happens, amazing things happen, and you can mitigate some of the symptoms that I just listed. It expands your arteries up to 62% with the transveratral, and it speeds up blood flow to support healthy blood pressure, delivering more oxygen to your cells and boosting your energy levels, among a million other things. So right now you can get free shipping, and also check out Juvenon Blood Flow with 30% off right now. The code is JOY30. That's 30% off right now for Juvenon, and TJ is going to pop up the URL right into the live chat. You can also find the link to Juvenon Blood Flow in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. So right now, just for you, 30% off with the code JOY7. And that is for Juvenon Blood Flow 7. Absolutely amazing product. I just want to tell you a little bit about my financial advisor. He's been with me for over 15 years, Don Polano of PCM and Associates. As you all know, my philosophy on investing is all of the above. So you know I'm hugely bullish on gold and silver, physical gold and silver, and also the gold and silver IRA. I also love real estate, which I can't get into right now because it's too overpriced. So that's kind of a bummer. But I also have money in the stock market, the good old traditional stock market. Now, right now, I am not in tech stocks at all whatsoever. I have very, very boring stocks and some international. And this is what I love about Don Polano is that he knows, he respects my belief system. He shares my belief system. And for what I do have in the stock market, in those investments for my retirement, he takes great care of me. He helps people all over the country and the world. And he is taking on clients, opening it up to all of you. So if you go to 1-800, if you call 1-800-536-1368, that is 1-800 536-1368. You can talk to Dom and get started. If you are unsure of the politics of your financial advisor, or if you're a little jittery about the stock market right now and you want to move some things around, he is your guy. You can also go to pcmpolano.com to learn more about him. That is pcmpolano.com. It is wonderful to have a financial analyst and advisor who shares my values, and that's Dom Polano. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Let's go to the live chat. I want to say hello to a lot of you and get some of your comments before we hit the video clips. I have 3 of them from the Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes interview, also one from Candace Owens. And then in the second half of the program, we are going to talk about the economy, the economic conditions. This is actually what really matters to most of you. Right? There is a circus, sideshow, soap opera happening in conservative media. Everyone's fighting with everyone. And we saw that in this Fuentes Carlson interview. They talk about the inside baseball stuff and, you know, the fight between Dave Rubin and Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they're fighting with Mark Levin, and Mark Levin's fighting with Ben Shapiro, and everyone's fighting. It's like, what is this? Like, why does any of that matter? Our economy is falling apart. And this was posted by Jason Bassler. Trump administration officials are absolutely gaslighting the American public right now. And people know it. And this is why more and more farmers are going out speaking about this. And more former MAGA voters are renouncing Trump and leaving the movement. Because right now they're saying the prices are down, but the numbers just came out. Food is up 3.1%. Shelter, housing, rents up 3.6%. Used cars are up 5.1%. In fact, the average price for a new car in the United States of America today is $50,000, which is unbelievable. Okay, electricity is up 5.1%. Natural gas up 11.7%. Medical care, insurance up 3.9%. Meat, poultry, fish, and eggs on average up 5.2%. And this is all since September of 2024. So we're nearly 1 year into the Trump administration, and everything is not fine. Everything is not fine at all. And everyone knows it. And maybe this is why they are injecting such chaos into the conservative movement. Maybe it's too difficult for the conservative talkers, Con Inc., Fox News, Fox Business, to lie to their constituents anymore. And so they have to inject these types of characters, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, into the mix to confuse and befuddle and distract people from what is happening in their own reality, the reality of their own life. And I can tell you, I'm a mom, I'm middle class, I have a mortgage, a car payment, trying to put kids through college. I have big grocery bills every week, and you cannot lie to me about the rise in prices. I would say when we look at our credit card bill as a family, and we keep a very close eye on our credit card bill every month with a family of 5, it is up at least, I would say, at least $1,500 to $2,000 per month since I would say over the past 2.5 years. And it's gone steadily up and up and up. Everything is more expensive. I'm a consumer. I'm a mother. And so the gaslighting is real. Unfortunately, conservatives can't talk about this because they're trying to pitch to their audiences that we're in a golden economy. And so I think this is probably part of the reason that we are seeing such chaos in conservative media, all of the infighting and the just kind of bizarre nature of everything. Candace Owens now declaring war on Turning Point USA, saying apparently that they are complicit in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and she's going to get to the bottom of it. Also, very bizarre text exchange between Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, which is just, it's all so strange. It's also strange. So we're going to be getting to that in the second half of the program because, as I mentioned, these are the things that matter to you. But unfortunately, we can't have nice things in this country because the media is so corrupt, particularly not only left-wing news media, they're bad enough as it is, but right-wing news media as well. So I want to see some of your comments here. Yes, LT Oracle of Truth. Restaurants are closing like crazy. Retailers are closing like crazy. Mark the Regan with a comment, oil, coal, natural gas going up causes everything else to go up. Don't frag me, bro. Control the food, control the people, control water, control life. Yes, we're seeing the consolidation and of power happen very quickly. Guitar Lily is on the live chat. I see you. MAGA, Sleeping Giant 111 is with us on the live chat. Let's see if we have any other comments here. Did you know, General Patton, I did not know this. This is why you guys are great on the live chat. General Patton, did you know that Glenn Beck admitted on air that Trump had him sign an NDA agreement? That's a non-disclosure agreement. I did not know that. I do know that Donald Trump has a no-go clause for any discussion about vaccines or Operation Warp Speed. So anyone who interviews Donald Trump has to agree that they will not ask him about the bioweapon, the poison shots that Trump rolled out in his first administration and continues to promote to this day, which is just absolutely outrageous. Love Angel C is with us. Yeah, she believes that Tim Pool, Stephen Crowder, all these people are likely agents. Why focus on Candace? Part of me, agents, I don't know, agent provocateurs, I just get the sense that they're all playing within the boundaries of the playground. Like they're all in the sandbox, right? And they're all allowed to be in the sandbox as long as they play ball, they don't attack certain things, they don't speak certain truths, and they contribute to the chaotic nature of the news cycle. And so they get a lot right. They say a lot of true things, but at the end of the day, when it matters, when we need them the most to say the true thing and say it clearly, they're nowhere to be found. Or they're pushing something that is incredibly dangerous to the American people. And that's what Fuentes did. If you ignore all of the, if you go through the entire interview and you look at like one of the most important pull quotes, it is essentially, after saying that he doesn't agree with Trump anymore and he thinks that Trump is with Israel and all the things, Nick Fuentes is advocating that Trump go in and assert the power of the federal government and the supremacy of the federal government to, as he says, crush the left. And that is in terms of combating crime and illegal immigration in blue cities across the country. And so for all of his disdain for Trump and all of the, he would say that Israel is the culprit in everything, and so are the Jews, and he uses that type of rhetoric, right? But regardless of all of that, because he's America first, he essentially is advocating and advising the president of the United States to essentially become a dictator, a fascistic dictator, which is really on brand for Nick Fuentes. He has never met a fascist dictator that he doesn't love. He loves Adolf Hitler and he loves Joseph Stalin, which he admitted in this Tucker interview, which just blows your mind. But let's get started with some of these clips so that we can get a sense of what I'm talking about here. And again, I'm not privy to these people's deals and the agreements that they make and, what they agree to say or not say in order to maintain their platforms. But all I know is that there's something wrong here, certainly with Candace Owens and also with Nick Fuentes. So let's start just with Nick. For me, this pulls him off the table right now. And this is why I was confused that Tucker Carlson even decided to interview him. But it was an interesting interview, I suppose. But, this is Nick Fuentes. This is the brand of Nick Fuentes. And I just have one clip from Fuentes so that you can get an understanding of the kind of fella that we're dealing with. And this is his brand. He has been on this topic really for the entirety of his 10-year career. He's a young guy. And this is what he had to say about Adolf Hitler, just to start things off. Let's roll the tape.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool. And any boy knows that. Anybody who watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff, it's like this guy's awesome. This guy's cool.
And that's exactly actually what Nick Fuentes wants for Donald Trump to do. He wants him to roll down the streets in the tanks in cities across America that have high levels of illegal immigration and crime. And he advocates on Tucker Carlson for Trump to crush the left, for Trump to assert national supremacy and arrest governors and mayors who get in his way as he's cleaning out these cities. So again, this is quite on brand. And he asserted this in his interview with Tucker Carlson that everyone apparently is raving about, right? Because, well, we thought we hated Nick Fuentes, but wow, he really is a sympathetic figure. And it was an hour, it was a 2.5 hour interview. And it really did paint Nick Fuentes as, poor little rich boy from the Boston suburbs, right? He goes out, he's a Trump fan early on, and he gets involved with people like, Ben Shapiro and the young conservative movement, and says some, racist or anti-Semitic things. He gets ousted from the movement. And the poor guy, he's like John the Baptist in the wilderness for 10 years. Right? Talking about white supremacy and how we have to preserve the white demographics of the white Christian demographics in the United States of America, all the while, promoting and saying outrageous things about Stalin and Hitler. By the way, in the interview with Tucker Carlson, he did admit he is a fan and admirer of Joseph Stalin. He said that he celebrates his birthday every year. This is the same guy, by the way. Fuentes claims to be a Catholic, driven by his Catholic faith, which we really know nothing about. I know nothing about his Catholicism, doesn't really talk about it. But, under Stalin, nearly all the Catholic churches, this was pushed out by the MAGA Hulk in response to this, just so that we know who Stalin is. Nearly all the Catholic churches in the USSR were closed after the communist overthrow. They were confiscated or destroyed in the late 1930s. Thousands of Catholic priests and nuns were executed, died in labor camps. In the Ukraine, over 100 Catholic priests were killed in the 1930s alone by Stalin. Many Catholics ended up in forced labor camps, and most Catholic priests were shot or worked to death in the gulags. Stalin's policies, as we know, also caused over 20 million deaths overall, largely many through famine and the withholding of food, and Catholics were disproportionately affected. So why Nick Fuentes, as a professing Catholic Christian, would celebrate Stalin's birthday and admire him, as he stated on Tucker Carlson's show, and Tucker Carlson just kind of chuckled, right? There's no pushback. There was no that's outrageous. What is wrong with you? How could you say that? It's, and that's Tucker handled him with kid gloves, it seems, almost with a fatherly affection, right, for this entire interview, which was really bizarre to watch. But no, according to Nick Fuentes, so this is who we're dealing with. Nick Fuentes, given a platform now and being normalized, I think, grooming the Tucker Carlson audience to accepting this guy. Loves Hitler, loves Stalin. Yeah, Scott Gordon, it's very crazy. And Sleeping Giant 111, we are being pushed to the brink in order to accept something otherwise we would have rejected. Yes, that is the key. That is the pull quote. And I'm going to play that for you last. But let's go on to, it's interesting, this type of laundering of a dark character, a bizarro conservative with fascistic or totalitarian or just absolutely outrageous masochistic, chauvinistic tendencies, was actually evident to me. It became very evident to me about 2 years ago when I watched Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, along with Benny Johnson and Alex Jones and other major players in the conservative media, attempt to launder the dark character of Andrew and Tristan Tate. Now, they platformed Andrew Tate on their platforms, presenting him as, well, this super famous guy that young men are really attracted to because, he's kind of chauvinistic and he he's representing a more masculine version of Americanism that the woke right and the woke left are too chicken to display, which is totally false. But what they didn't tell you is that Andrew Tate is a self-admitted pimp and rapist of a 15-year-old girl. He is a vile pornographer. He videotapes himself beating women on a regular basis. There are hundreds of videos of him absolutely denigrating women, abusing them. He is a self-admitted pimp, and he is charged in multiple countries, the UK and in Romania, also civil charges in the United States of America for multiple counts, dozens of counts of raping a minor, sex trafficking of minors, sex trafficking, running criminal gangs, also laundering money, harassing and tampering with witnesses. And he is facing almost life in prison. And so this guy is under house arrest in Romania to be extradited to the UK to answer charges there as well. These are 60 named victims, okay, or more, and even more civil charges as well. So they didn't tell you any of that. They're like, oh, this guy is just being targeted by the woke left, right? Because he's being targeted because he's appealing to young right-wing men. So that was the first experience I had with this kind of whitewashing or laundering on conservative media platforms of really, really vile characters. And so this Nick Fuentes thing, it popped out at me immediately because it reminded me of what happened 2 years ago. And as you know, we have been exposing Andrew Tate here in the US. I mean, Andrew Tate was such an important character. Candace Owens whitewashed his character, so did Tucker Carlson. And he's such a critical player in all of this, which I can't quite make sense of. But I kid you not, Donald Trump, and we exposed this just about 6 or 7 months ago, Donald Trump, one of the first things that Donald Trump did when he came into office was to send Richard Grenell, who is a diplomatic emissary. He works for Donald Trump, exclusively. Donald Trump sent Rich Grenell to Munich to strong arm and pressure Romanian officials to allow the Tate brothers to leave Romania and come to the United States of America. And that resulted in that fated, private jet landing in Florida. Governor DeSantis came out immediately and said, he better not stay here very long because we're going to indict him here and we're going to open a criminal investigation here in Florida. The Tate brothers flew back to Romania. It was a huge scandal. And, but that just goes to show that like this character is, for whatever reason, plays an important role. And I think that the Tates are annoying, but they're also criminals, Sleeping Giant 111, and they're also platformed by so-called Christian Catholic conservatives. This is my issue, right? Like, why would Tucker Carlson, who is a professing Christian, platform a self-admitted pimp and pornographer who is hundreds upon hundreds of hours of vile video? And yeah, the Tate brothers' father was involved in the CIA. That would not surprise me. Thank you. Don't frag me, bro. So here was one of the first clips. And it's interesting that Nick Fuentes refers to Andrew Tate, but not in a bad way, right? Andrew Tate is just a natural manifestation of the frustrations of the average American male because everyone else is so woke and lame. And so this first clip we're going to take a look at. You can see the manipulation there, and then we'll end with the last clip that I think delivered the kill shot. It was the reason that Nick Fuentes was platformed, and it was the message that he wanted to get across. And it was essentially opening the door for Trump fascism. It was basically saying, in order for you to redeem yourself with someone like me, you have to crush the woke. And the way that you do that is you suspend the Constitution, you roll the tanks through the streets, and you crush them. You arrest woke mayors, you arrest woke governors, and there was no pushback from Tucker Carlson. Essentially, he just kind of nodded along. I'll show you that clip in a minute. But here is the Tate clip. It's clip number 3. If you want to roll that, TJ. Let's get that one ready, and then we'll end with the last clip, which is to crush them.
Andrew Tate's a Muslim polygamist who is very chauvinistic. And you could even argue it as someone who has ran an OnlyFans site himself, like is not an observer, let's say, of Christian sexual morality.
No.
But men are going with him because he's putting women in their place. He's talking about patriarchy and women's place in a society like that. Whereas Christian men, Catholics, Protestants alike, are both kind of tone policing the men. And they worship their wives. They worship the women, put them on a pedestal. And they kind of get bossed around. They get henpecked by the women.
I think we're required to love our wives. Like that's, all over the New Testament. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, respect your husbands. That seems like a very natural balance to me.
Yeah, and I think that you have to love your wife as your wife.
Yeah.
A lot of men...
As opposed to what? Your mom?
Well, no, like your buddy.
No. Because
I hear this all the time, and I hate this. Guys will say, I married my best friend. And I think, she's your wife. She's not your best friend. Because there's a difference.
What is the difference?
I think that when you talk about your best friend, you're a peer. You're an equal. And I think your best friendships are with other men. And I think that your wife ultimately is subordinate to you. She's your helpmate. Yeah. And ultimately, as the man in the marriage and as the father, you have authority, the final say over the household.
Well,
and
she
can give advice. It's not to say I'm not a freak where you say, shut up, woman. Of course, you discuss things with your wife and your wife gives input, but the authority rests with the man.
Of course. But God set up this kind of amazing system where men are physically stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So of course you could make your wife do whatever you wanted. You're bigger than she is.
Right.
But he also instilled in men this desire to please your wife. That's a very natural thing. You want your wife to be happy.
Absolutely.
And the whole happy wife, happy life thing is completely real. It's like you can't get away from it. It's not like all of these things. It's not a choice. It's the biological reality that you live with, that you were born with. You want your wife to be happy. And if she's unhappy, you're unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
To a much greater extent than vice versa, right?
Yeah.
I think men care about their wives being happy much more than wives care about their husbands being happy.
Yes.
I have noticed. And that's compensation for their lack of physical power.
Mm-hmm.
That's my view of it. And that's why it is this kind of perfect balance.
All right. So, Tucker Carlson engages with this lunacy, with this outrageous opinion of a young man who, by the way, is not married. He has no children. I don't know if he's ever had a girlfriend. I don't know if he's ever had a relationship. This is an idiot who loves Stalin and loves Adolf Hitler and wants Trump to be more like Stalin and more like Adolf Hitler, lecturing Tucker Carlson on what it means to be the patriarch or a husband, okay, while also sugarcoating what Andrew Tate is. He says, oh, well, Andrew Tate, he's a Muslim, he's a polygamist, which he is, and he's also, an OnlyFans, right? He has an OnlyFans page, which is he's a pornographer. Nick Fuentes doesn't tell the truth, and neither does Tucker Carlson. The truth is that Andrew Tate is a self-admitted rapist. He is a self-admitted pimp. He is a self-admitted sex trafficker, and he is under indictment on dozens of counts of all of those things, including raping a minor in Romania and the UK, as well as civil indictments in the United States of America. They don't tell you that, right? And by the way, Andrew Tate, everyone loves him because at least he's putting women in their place. That's what Nick Fuentes says. And Tucker's like, well, Nick, I think we're supposed to love our wives. And I'm like, I want to smack him across the face and say, snap out of it. What are you doing? This guy has no interesting insight. He has nothing interesting to say. He's not rooted in any type of principled ideology. There's no light or joy or hope or solution making from Nick Fuentes. He just throws bomb after bomb. He divides, he confuses, and he utters absolute absurdity. He's normalizing this idea. He's trying to normalize this idea, especially among young men, because as we mentioned early on, he is super famous on Instagram, and Mark Zuckerberg is helping him get millions and millions of views, right? So all the young guys love him. And he's teaching these men that, you know, a woman should know her place. She is subordinate. You shouldn't be friends. My husband, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy, is my best friend. He is absolutely manly. He's absolutely strong. And this guy is just he's out of his mind. But somehow now we're all talking about this. Now, that is just one example of the kind of twisted discussion between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes that really never gets us anywhere except where I think they meant us to go. Now, at one point, Fuentes does rail against, he says that he no longer likes President Trump. So where is that here? He says that that Trump has been, I guess, co-opted, and obviously he has a problem with Trump embracing Israel and embracing Netanyahu and really submitting, as many people would say, to an Israel first policy, right? But then he's like, you know, they don't talk a whole lot about Trump. And when asked about how to solve certain problems, because he's warning now, like all the other guys, everyone's talking, I told you yesterday, everyone's talking about civil war, right? You're seeing them all try to kind of foment. It's like a tinderbox, and they're getting everyone more and more agitated. The news cycle is moving faster. The left seems crazier. The right seems crazier. Trump has deployed troops into blue states and blue cities across the country. And it's a tinderbox. And Fuentes talks about this tinderbox, right? And at first you're kind of like, okay, well, some of what he's saying is making sense. He's accurately describing conditions that could lead to violence or political unrest or upheaval, which could then, my issue is that gives the Trump administration and the government the excuse to declare an emergency, to suspend the Constitution, to deploy the military into the interior of the United States of America, do all sorts of horrible things to us. We saw that with 2020. But Nick's not worried about that. No. What he's saying is in order to fix this, right, because the tinderbox is igniting and we could devolve into civil unrest, he is advocating for more power, more executive authority, and for Trump to essentially establish himself as a dictator. And so this plays right into everything else that we're hearing from Steve Bannon and Alex Jones. They want a third term for President Trump. By all means necessary, he can do anything. He can adopt all the tactics. He can destroy the Constitution in order to save the Constitution from the left, right? Because all that matters is this vague version of America first. Fuentes does not even describe what America first means to him. It's a bizarre collectivist notion of, well, we just have to do what's best for all Americans. He has nothing to say about the tariffs. He has nothing to say about the shredding of our Constitution. It's just this kind of vague America first that he never defines. But it's defined by, the only definition is by crushing the left and establishing essentially a fascistic dictatorship in order to do so, which is, by the way, why he admits that he loves Adolf Hitler and Stalin, okay? We cannot allow this to be normalized within our conservative movements. This is why I'm doing the show today, and I'm spending so much time on it. I don't think I've ever mentioned Nick Fuentes on my show ever, but now we have to do it, because he is thrust now, thank you, Tucker Carlson, into the mainstream. And oh, by the way, they've also established in that interview that he was right about everything, right? So Tucker is like chuckling, yeah, you were right about the Jews, you were right about Israel, you were right about everything, and now you're mainstreamed. So I don't agree with that. I don't think that Nick Fuentes was right about anything, but they kind of gave that illusion in this interview, which I also had an issue with. And honestly, I do feel like, maybe in one of our post-show Hey Fam town halls, maybe we'll go through the whole interview, like piece by piece, because it's so sophisticated what they've done. And I don't even know if they're doing it on purpose, but it is a very sophisticated type of disinformation distraction, and confusion. For Ranger 1791, Fuentes is a classic example of extreme red pill who occasionally says base things, but then goes off the rails on 99% of his other content. Tate is exactly the same way. And yes, so is Candace Owens, in my opinion. Let's go to the last clip, because this is where I see the danger of Nick Fuentes. And this is where I'm a little frustrated with Tucker Carlson for, at the very least, not pushing back much, much harder against what it seems Fuentes is trying to normalize, which is a justification for Trump. Trump can be redeemed in the eyes of Nick Fuentes if he just becomes a little bit more like Adolf Hitler. And here's the clip that really bothered me. Let's take a look.
The other thing I'm really worried about is what's happening at these ICE detention centers, where it's happening not far from where I live in Broadview, Illinois, where they set up an ICE detention facility, and the administration is rounding these people up, which I support, but they're doing it in a very provocative way. They're broadcasting it. They're making hype edits on Twitter of like these raids on apartment complexes, which I think are very cool, but it's somewhat provocative. And Antifa showing up. In order to protect ICE, the administration's putting DHS. Well, now they're protesting the DHS presence, and the administration of the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago are telling Chicago police, don't help ICE. And they're encouraging the protesters. And what I see there is like a level of tension that just keeps increasing.
Yes.
And there's leadership. There's civilian leadership on both sides. Like the governor and mayor, who are Democrats, won't back down versus a Republican president. There's a security division too, the police versus ICE, the police versus DHS. There's a constitutional question about the federal supremacy, you know, and I see all the ingredients of like a low boil civil conflict, full blown civil war. And I'm not that guy, but I see all the ingredients there for that to happen. So I'm deeply concerned about where that will go.
How would you handle it if you were in charge? If you're the president, what do you do about that?
I think maybe this is controversial, but they have to crush the other side. They have to, because you can do one of two things. You cannot challenge the left and let them do their thing, or you can utterly confront them and defeat them and remove hope from the equation. If you resist, you will be arrested. Like this is an insurrection. There's 10 million people here illegally. We're getting them out. You're rioting. You're going to jail too. Like it has to be crushed. But if you do anything less than that, if you do in the middle, all you're doing is antagonizing and feeding the other side. And if they think there's a chance they can win, they will get bolder and stronger and they'll start to rally. And that's when it's sort of like people think it's close or like it's contentious. That's when it breathes. That's when oxygen is fed to this kind of fire. So if I were Trump, I would say screw 200 National Guard, like arrest the mayor of Chicago, like arrest the governor. Shut it down, like make it clear, like Washington, you know, bring in the troops and say the federal government is supreme. The immigration law is the law of the land. If you're not on board with that, you're going to jail. If you attack ICE or box them in with your car, you're going to jail for a long time. Anything less than that, you might as well just not even bark up that tree at all.
All right. So he's worried about civil war, but advocating that Donald Trump go in, declare the Insurrection Act, and roll those tanks into the cities, arrest governors, arrest mayors, and quell any type, utterly crush the left. Right. So for a moment, I thought when he said that there was a constitutional concern about, the exercise of executive power and the exercising the power of the federal government. Yes, Scott Gordon, exact opposite of our founding fathers' intentions. He wants full federal power. He made that statement to declare supremacy of federal power. And so this is essentially, I think, and, Tucker Carlson, oh, yes. Oh, yeah, it's so bad. So really what he's doing, he's advocating that Trump sees more power. And what does that mean? Concentration camps? What does that mean? Like, should you round up people at the No Kings rallies, geotrack them using Palantir, your buddy Peter Thiel, and find out where they live and crush it before it happens? Because he said, the more hope that they have, if they think they're actually making progress, if they think they can actually stop this, well, they're only going to become more emboldened, and that's going to increase the tension, right? So he's advocating, I mean, full scale, yeah, Mary knew Trump is ready for bigger things: food riots, migrant riots, inflation. Maybe this is why, but this is why they're rolling out troops across the country. I think that we really need to expose Fuentes. There's actually more to this interview that I would like to get to, but I don't want to spend the entire show on it. I think at the very least, let's end this discussion on Nick Fuentes with the clip we started with. So the new mistake, again, Tucker Carlson, for whatever reason, sought to normalize and I guess present Nick Fuentes to his audience as a sympathetic and interesting character. I don't see anything of the sort. I think that Nick Fuentes is an idiot. And I don't know what his intentions are, but it really is to break things, it seems to me, to break things, to divide, and also to acclimate people and get them used to, groom them for a totalitarian style government situation. And of course, if it's Trump and it's to destroy the left, well, then it's okay. They can do anything. And I don't like that. It violates constitutional principles. It violates everything that I believe in. And frankly, I don't even know what Fuentes believes in. All I know is that he loves dictators. So let's end with Fuentes so that no one ever forgets who he is. And there are probably 1,000 videos of this out there, of videos like these ones of Fuentes. But we're going to end with that. We'll go to a break right after, TJ. And when we come back, we'll get into some of the economic news of the day, because it's bad. Again, we're focusing on these characters, Bizarro, Khan, confusing and confounding everyone when there are real problems coming. And we're going to talk about that when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. RocketDollar.com/Shannon Joy. That is RocketDollar.com/Shannon Joy. Amazing sponsors of the Shannon Joy Show. And with Rocket Dollar, you can move a portion of your retirement out of the government to Wall Street controlled stock market and into private investments, physical gold and silver, and or real estate, which is what I love about Rocket Dollar. I just did an interview last week with Henry Yoshida. You just saw on that commercial that we ran, but this is from Technocracy. Patrick Wood wrote this. Even the tech billionaires at this point know that the AI bubble is about to burst. And he says that AI is the mother of all the bubbles. And when it pops, the explosion will take out most of the AI companies, all of their suppliers, writes Patrick Wood. Work will stop on half-finished AI data centers. Others will be shuttered because there will be no money to maintain them. When corporations realize that the ROI on billions of dollars invested never materialize, many will collapse under their own weight. And when that happens, as you all know, 30 to 40% of the entire value of the stock market is in the Magnificent Seven, those 7 tech companies. If you are not diversified out of the traditional retirement funds that are featured in the 401ks and IRAs, you are at risk. It's not just gold and silver, physical gold and silver, but they also have real estate, private equity, private corporations, even crypto, if you're interested in crypto, which I am not, but they give you that option as well. So go to rocketdollar.com/joy. That is
zone. This is our satellite Faraday sleeve. So it actually will fit your satellite phone, which we've noticed that there wasn't any product on the market that perfectly fit them. So we decided to make them ourselves. And it has this Velcro closure right here to close it up. And that makes this dust and water resistant. So what's nice about this Faraday pouch is that it'll protect against any EMPs. So your device is, your emergency device actually will always be protected in here as long as it stays in here. You can take it out for everyday use, but if you're not using it, we recommend that you store it in here. Again, this is available on darkbags.com.
Kimchi One from Brightcore. This is an amazing product. You guys know I've been focusing on my gut. It's something that I haven't really paid attention to for most of my adult life, but we need that good 85 to 15% good bacteria to bad bacteria in our gut. And here's some interesting information. Did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years in 2014, and global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years. And this is because people are aging faster than ever before. Why? Because of toxins in the air, chemicals in our soil, in our food, and other external factors, including mass vaccination, that are new to these generations. And what people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. And Kimchi One is one of the ways that you can begin to fight that battle. I take it every day, 3 capsules. It's 100% made in the USA, all natural, non-GMO, and it will support your gut. Right now, Kimchi One is 50% off, 50. But that is only if you use the toll-free number. Call them, have a conversation, 888-912-4317. Right now, limited time, 50% off, free shipping, and they are giving away a free bottle of vitamin D3, which is like a $30 value in and of itself. This is just for the Joy audience. So you have to go to mybrightcore.com/joy. That is mybrightcore.com/joy. The 800 number is right there. If you use the promo code JOY, you'll get a straight up 25% off. But, let's have a conversation. Give them a call. Again, 888-912-4317.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool. And any boy knows that. Anybody that watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff, it's like, this guy's awesome. This guy's cool.
Yes, thank you, Tucker Carlson, for normalizing that. That is Nick Fuentes, the ignorant fool that everyone is talking about today. Thanks to Tucker Carlson. I'll never understand it. Normalizing and whitewashing the dark, dark character and the very vapid ideology. There's nothing there. There's no there with Nick Fuentes. He's just there to titillate and stoke and divide. I'm a real boy. He's yes, Mrs. Lovely. He's a weirdo. And, the most annoying thing about the interview with Tucker Carlson is that you actually feel sympathetic for him for a moment. But then I got over that really quickly. You guys can watch the entire interview. It is all over the internet. It's all over Twitter. And I might have more to say about that in future shows. But right now I want to move on to Candace Owens because, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am in this ridiculous soap opera that is just, I don't even know what to say about it. When Candace Owens isn't obsessing, completely over the gender of Brigitte Macron, she is now apparently taking up the sword of truth for Charlie Kirk, all right, and declaring war on TPUSA and basically just making an absolute. She's just it's crazy. I don't know what more to say about Candace Owens. Right? What is she doing here? She's saying that we don't trust anything that you're telling us about what happened to Charlie Kirk. We don't trust anything about what the official narrative is regarding his assassination. And now we are going to go to war with everyone over at TPUSA. Now, this is frustrating because there are very real, very sober, and very reasonable critiques about the official narrative, which I laid out 3 or 4 weeks ago, very shortly after his assassination. I've decided not to even engage in this story because now at this point, there are so many crazies out there that there's no point. And I think that is the point of what Candace is doing here, right? Like she's taking something very legitimate and she's making it a soap opera. She's making it a personal thing. She might as well be Joan of Arc, like going out there to avenge Charlie Kirk. She's releasing these text exchanges between her and Charlie Kirk, which are just ridiculous, frankly. They're ridiculous. And I have a clip of Candace as well. Let's go to her clip. Again, distraction. It is confusion, chaos, dividing the conservative movement, confusing people. By the way, Candace Owens, also a whitewasher of Andrew and Tristan Tate. In fact, Candace has welcomed the Tate brothers on her platform probably a half a dozen times over the past year and a half, despite her knowledge that they are under indictment for dozens and dozens of crimes, including the rape of a minor. I know I'm going on about this throughout the show, but again, when these type of platformers help to launder the character and lie to their audiences about people like Andrew and Tristan Tate, this is when I omit them from my repertoire of trusted sources. So Nick Fuentes is something, Tucker Carlson is something, Candace Owens is something, Alex Jones is something, Benny Johnson is something, but they're not sources, right? They're playing some kind of role. They have some kind of shtick. They are purveyors of some good information, but there are so many questions about what they choose to cover and to not cover and how they launder the character of people like the Tates that I just don't use them as sources. I don't find them to be credible sources. And I would recommend everyone consider your sources because right now it's really important to get good information. And these people are just, I don't know, it just feels like such a freaking soap opera. I can't stand it. But this is what Candace Owens has to say after releasing these exchanges between her and Charlie Kirk. Apparently, she loves Charlie more than his own wife and more than the people that he worked with over at TPUSA. And she is going, I guess we have a whole new storyline with Candace Owens. But this is what she had to say yesterday.
And I do not want people to mistake what's happening right now or to wrongly assume my intentions here. So allow me to be very explicit, okay? I want war with all of you, okay? All of you. And there's a reason. I'm going to get to that reason in a little bit, but I want war with all of you. So write your articles, issue your statements, email the White House, reach out for comment, okay? Say whatever it is you want to say about me. I want war with all of you. Because I know this isn't right. And there is no way you are going to convince me and the rest of the world that all of this is normal. We're not just going to keep on going and jump into a succession plan. We're going to figure out what the hell happened on September 10th first. And I'm going to tell you guys, Charlie had a vision.
All right. So now Candace Owens, we have a whole new storyline. No more Brigitte Macron. She is going to avenge the death of Charlie Kirk and get to the bottom of all of it. And if you really believe that Candace Owens is going to get to the bottom of anything, everyone's telling me, oh, well, I'm glad that she's investigating this. No, Candace Owens is now making a mockery of real and legitimate questions about the official narrative, which should be explored, but we can't explore because we can't have nice things in this country because the media is dominated by imbeciles. And Candace Owens is an imbecile, in my opinion. She is now accusing Turning Point USA of covering up Charlie Kirk assassination details and declaring war on TPUSA, conservative media, the chief of staff, Mikey McCoy, and releasing, I mean, even the text messages between Candace and Charlie Kirk are just absurd. These are very young people. They're all in their late 20s, maybe early 30s, and somehow they're dominating all of the discourse within conservative media and not talking about anything of importance that will actually impact regular people. It's all this like massive assault against the quote woke left, which is even hard to define at this point. But, you know, she says, she releases these texts and Charlie says to her, "You're going to be the Iron Lady of America. I see it so freaking clearly. I might be Moses too, though," says Charlie. "I might not see this whole thing through. LMAO, laughing my A off. If that's the case, then be my David." All right. So Candace is saying that, I mean, these are kids. These are kids. She says, dude, you don't even realize your own power yet. And he goes, if I tell you the true prophecy I know in my gut, it's really sad. It's like, I don't even know. These people are very high on themselves. There's a lot of ego there. There's a lot of hubris there. They think very highly of themselves. And I just think that it's all weird. So they go on. He says to her, I believe you were the piece God meant me to meet that will finish the fight. Since the beginning of TP USA, I knew in my gut that I might get wiped out at any time. I dream about it all the time. But I guess Candace is the one who's going to take over. I don't know. She's going to take up the thing. It's just ridiculous. So now so this is all over. This is all over social media. And, well, no, I think Candace Owens is an imbecile. I think she's an absolute imbecile. And I think that, again, with all these people, a lot of what they say might be true. They might come up with something that is relevant or meaningful at some point. But when it actually matters, they just get it completely wrong. And now I don't think we're ever going to get the truth about what happened, because now it's completely politicized. It's become absolutely absurd. And Candace is now, and she's just crazy. She just says crazy things. I don't know what to say. Zoe Joy 123, you agree, Shannon? Fez Woody, I'm on her side on this issue, even if she refuses to target the actual shooter. It's a limited hangout, 100%, CJP Rumble. Like, what she's going to do is she's going to direct everyone to absurdity, and she's going to be absurd, and she's going to do that week after week after week after week. And you're going to spend endless hours going down the Candace Owens rabbit hole. You're going to waste an enormous amount of your time following up on her leads, and then she's going to pull the rug out from underneath you. Which is what she did with the whole Brigitte Macron thing, which, by the way, doesn't matter. This is a foreign official, right? This is the wife of a foreign president. It doesn't even matter to what is happening, regarding what is happening here in the United States of America. But again, they are distracting us from this reality. And of course, this was pushed out by Jason Bassler, who is an independent reporter, part of the Free Thought Project. He's been on the Shannon Joy Show. The news about the economy is devastating. Just yesterday, as we mentioned earlier in the program, UPS is cutting 14,000 management roles, 34,000 operations roles in the golden economy. Amazon announcing that they're cutting 14,000 jobs today. 30,000 total cuts are planned. Paramount is cutting 1,000 jobs. Target, 1,800 corporate layoffs. 600 layoffs from Rivian Automotive. Hiring is at its slowest pace since 2009. And the economic numbers, the inflation numbers are even worse. Again, from Jason Bassler, the Trump administration officials are desperately gaslighting the public, claiming that inflation is cured, that prices are down, and that prosperity is just around the corner, right? So we're all worried about the circus sideshow that is being presented to us by conservative media, Con Inc. and Bizarro Con, when the economy is on its last legs. Food is up 3.1%, shelter up 3.6%, used cars up 5.1%, electricity up 5.1%, natural gas up 12%, healthcare and insurance up 3.9%, natural gas up 11%, and meat, poultry, fish, and eggs up 5.2%. Trump is now saying that in order to bring meat prices down, he wants to issue price controls, and that is why he's going to flood the market with Argentinian beef, which is now driving yet another stake into the heart of the American rancher, the American farmer, the American economy, and America first. So rather than Nick Fuentes talking about Trump's tariff taxes and his protectionism, he is talking about expanding Trump's power to basically control everything. And so this is what farmers had to say. We have about 10 minutes left in the show, and I definitely want to get to what really matters to all of you, and that is what is happening within this economy. There are more and more farmers and ranchers speaking out. And TJ, I want to go to this clip number 6. Well, we have 2 farmer clips. Why don't we run both of them? One, yes, I know is on NBC, Apparently, we have to go to left-wing news media outlets today to get to the truth about what's happening in the economy. And yeah, I know they're not doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because, well, they don't like Trump, but that doesn't erase what is happening to farmers. And I have two clips from two farmers, one on MSNBC and another who was a former Trump supporter, who are now saying, I mean, they're calling foul on this. Trump's tariffs are backfiring and they're creating an enormous amount of problems for our farmers. Yes, Zen Woman, my farm eggs are still $4. And it's bad. It's bad. So let's go to the farmers and see what's really happening within the economy, despite what you're seeing on mainstream conservative news media. Let's take a look.
You know, this president sold America's farmers out. And, farmers called every day and they said that they feel like they've been betrayed by this president, $40 billion to Argentina. And then they start to sell soybeans to China. And then the president comes and invites them here to the United States and then cuts another deal undermining beef cattle farmers here at home. So
go ahead.
He always says he's putting America's first, that he loves farmers. But
I
this
can't hear.
doesn't look American at all to America's farmers. And
well, the president's got it just all wrong. First, we created tariffs. Farmers are taking it on the chin with higher costs, just like everybody listening to this, viewing this. Then he starts a trade war with China, and soybean farmers are taking it on the chin. China was the largest purchaser of U.S. soybeans, and literally overnight they stopped buying soybeans, leaving bins full and farmers going bankrupt. And now, because he likes the president of Argentina, or at least that was the basis that he gave, he's going to not only, he gave them $40 billion. As a matter of fact, the first $20 billion went out, and the first thing Argentina did was lower a tax and sell soybeans to China. And now he turns around and says, I'm going to buy their beef. So it's really, many of the ranchers, we have folks on our staff and in our network, farmers that raise cattle, and, it's a betrayal. They had expected, the prices have been going up. They're finally making some money after about a decade of losses. Our cattle herd is the smallest it's been since the 50s. And they're finally now have a chance to recover and put more heifers in to be breeding stock for cows. And the president says, oh, beef's too high at the grocery store, so I'm going to import more beef. He's just got it wrong. It won't work. There's no guarantee. The big packers, 4 companies, control 80% of all the beef in this country. So you go to the grocery store, it's an illusion that there's that much choice in that case. 4 companies control the beef in this country, and there's nothing the president's doing that they will be the buyers. They'll get cheaper meat, and nothing guarantees the consumer will see a lower price. So, matter of fact, they've been making record profits during this time of high beef prices. They could stand to lower some of that, continue to pay the farmer what they need, the rancher, and provide the consumer with a fair market price in the grocery store. He's just got it wrong.
And that farmer really explaining in a nutshell what is going on with the United States economy. It's not just with farmers. It's not just with ranchers. It is the consolidation of power across all industry, an unholy alliance between the federal government, politicians, Washington, D.C., and a corporate elite. An elite class that is buying influence and power in Washington, D.C., and using that influence and power to rig the market and create monopolies. That farmer mentioned 4 major companies dominating the entire beef industry, acting as the middlemen between the farmers and the ranchers and the American consumers, the purchasers of the food and the beef. They're rigging the market in a way that is making it untenable. And rather than fixing that problem and joining with Tom Massey on the Prime Act, which would remove barriers, the middlemen between farmers, ranchers, and the people who want to buy their products, buy their food and their meat and at a local level, the president is instituting price controls, right? So the prices of beef are too high. Rather than fixing institutionally, fundamentally, what is wrong with the market today in America, which is the monopoly making. It is the consolidation of power and the rigging of the markets and the crushing of small businesses. He is now implementing further federal centralized controls and officially pursuing a policy of price controls. They're going in, they're going out, and they're going to flood the market with beef so they can bring the prices down, which is going to crush these ranchers. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. And it's just because Donald Trump happens to like the president of Argentina, which is like, it's arbitrary and capricious. It's unstable and volatile. Another thing that is an absolute disaster for U.S. small businesses and the local economies. So it is one atom bomb after another that this president is leveling at the American people. And Tucker Carlson is playing footsies with Nick Fuentes. And Candace Owens is declaring war on Turning Point USA, right? Like, they're talking about nonsense. Alex Jones, the lot of them, when this problem is ubiquitous. It is systemic across multiple industries. And we're seeing the expansion of that fascism. Essentially, when I mentioned the unholy alliance, the merger, the coming together of the corporate state with the federal government, that is when you have fascism. That's the definition of fascism. It's government ownership of the institutions, or government partnership with the institutions of production in a given country. And again, Nick Fuentes and apparently Tucker Carlson love that. They think it's great because we have to crush the woke left by any means necessary, whether it's destroying the Constitution, ending the free market here in the US, engaging in protectionism, engaging in wage and price controls, consolidating power at the executive level, breaking apart the separation of powers, acting outside of the Constitution, declaring emergencies and national shutdowns, all of the things. Doesn't matter, apparently, to Fuentes and Carlson and the majority of the conservative right. None of that matters as long as we crush the woke left. Well, they don't think about what's going to happen when this apparatus is seized by the next Democratic president that will use it against us, because it's always about that expansion of power and the control of these industries. And these people are getting filthy rich off of this. It's horrifying. Now, we just mentioned what is happening in the food sector with farmers and ranchers, but this is happening in other sectors as well. I want to play this. This came from Camus on Twitter. If you're wondering, this is happening. If you're looking at your housing prices and you're talking to your adult child who would like to buy a house and they're absolutely boxed out, they cannot buy a house because the prices are absolutely skyrocketing. This is not natural. This is not natural inflation. This is actually rigged. And this is what these corporations do. These private equity firms come in and they rig the market. And so it's really important that we understand how they're doing this. And they're doing this within the food industry. They're doing it with the ranchers, and they're doing it with your dream of home ownership as well. Let's play this clip real quick. Do we have that clip?
A few weeks ago, allegedly, BlackRock just bought 50,000 homes at $300,000 each, then sold 3 to themselves for $700K. Your neighbor's value just doubled overnight, and you can't afford to live there anymore. They're stealing the American dream because BlackRock, step one, how they do this, they identify middle-class neighborhoods with growth potential, right? Step two, they buy hundreds of homes in cash, 20 to 30% above asking price. Imagine being that guy putting your shit on listing and it's like, oh no, we'll buy it for 30% more. I ain't saying no to that. I'm out that neighborhood. Imagine the HOA screwing you over and you're like, ha, I'm out of here. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, peace.
Step 3, regular families can't compete with unlimited corporate cash. Why? Because step 4, once they control enough inventory, they sell a few homes to shell companies that they already own. Step 5, those inflated sale prices become the new market rate. Step 6, your property taxes, and this is where it gets crazy. Your property taxes triple based on these fake sales. So the family that saved for 10 years to buy their first home outbid by a corporation with infinite money. The elderly couple who owned their home for 40 years, forced out by property taxes they can't afford. Meanwhile, and this is where all the good money comes in for them, BlackRock rents these homes back to the same families they priced out. The rent is $2,500 monthly. The former mortgage payment would have been $1,800. They created the problem.
All right, real
and
estate
sold the
agents,
solution.
question for you.
All right, so this was pushed out by at Newstart _ 2024 Camus, and I thought it was a really great overview of exactly what they're doing. And by the way, this is happening in my neighborhood. There are phantom houses. There are houses that are going up for unbelievable numbers, and it is jacking up the prices for every house in the neighborhood. This is why I've mentioned to you guys before, I cannot afford to live in my own neighborhood. If I tried to buy a house in my neighborhood right now, I would not be able to afford it. That's how rigged and how manipulated the housing prices are. And they are going, this is, you will own nothing and be happy. This is moving. It's forcing the American population into a renter society. The 21st century economy will feature renters, not owners, which is a disaster. Because when you rent, you are flushing your money down the toilet. You never have anything at the end. When you own, if you have a mortgage, even though you have to pay some interest, at the end of 15 years or 20 years or 30 years after paying down that mortgage, you own something of value, something that you can sell, something that you can pass on to your children, something that you can use as leverage, you can use as equity to expand and buy more property that you can then pass on to your children and your grandchildren. That is foundational wealth. That is generational wealth. And that is being stolen from our young people. It's being stolen from my children and your children and potentially our grandchildren as they manipulate this market. And that is exactly what they're doing. In fact, after running this, I was going to run it yesterday. I texted one of my favorite realtors here. He's amazing. He's been in the industry forever. And I'm like, is this really happening? Like, I know that we're reading about this. There are articles about how this is happening, but are you seeing this in our neighborhood? And I said, because I've seen it. And he said, yes, I am. He's like, the challenge with this though, is that if the company is inflating prices by selling the homes to themselves at massive increases, it's definitely deviant, but it's not illegal. It's completely sketchy. But the house will be worth what the market will bear. And they have ungodly amounts of money to manipulate the market. Tripling the tax burden is going to be obviously devastating for homeowners, right? So when the chickens come home to roost and your house is reassessed at some point at these new levels, this is when people, especially people on fixed incomes, this is why boomers should be paying attention to this. This is when you're going to get completely screwed. Because that tax burden, you're not going to be able to afford on your fixed income the taxes on a house that has tripled or quadrupled in value over the span of 3 or 4 years. And they're doing this all over the country. BlackRock just bought up an entire, there are news stories about them buying up entire neighborhoods. Now, this is also happening in the segments like, this fire truck example that was pushed out by Anna Mattson, but I'm not going to have time for that today. Okay, but this is the stuff that matters to you. We could be talking about how local communities and zoning boards, how people can become empowered by understanding what is happening in their own communities regarding the price of food, the price of housing, the price of rent, what's happening in our schools and with education, what's happening with surveillance in our towns and villages. People could be empowered to stand up and speak out, fight back against it, and make things good in their own communities. But instead, so many of us are glued to the television set, watching the soap opera, watching the Fuenteses of the world and the Candace Owens of the world and the Alex Joneses of the world and the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the leftist agent provocateurs on the left side of the political aisle. And it's one big circus. It doesn't matter. Like, this is what is going to matter to you. This is what matters to me because I have kids And I want them to experience the American dream. I want them to have the opportunities that I had growing up, that I had as a young professional, and they are being taken from them. And our young people are being influenced and indoctrinated by the likes of Nick Fuentes and Andrew and Tristan Tate and people like Candace Owens, who in my opinion are deceivers. It's absolutely tragic. And this is why we have to continue to find good independent outlets. We have to continue to call these people out. It's why I come here every day and why I meet with you every day, because it does still matter. And I do think that we can win. I think that we're dealing with psyops. We're dealing with controlled narratives. We're dealing with people who are paid to talk about certain things or frame things in certain ways or not talk about certain things. There are lies by omission as well as commission. We don't know the nature of the backroom deals that happen with media, but I know enough to know when I'm being lied to and when I'm being groomed. And that Nick Fuentes video, that Nick Fuentes interview with Tucker Carlson, I'm not buying. How do you all feel about it? All right, we have run out of time. Zen woman, God bless America. Absolutely. We have a lot of work to do in this country. Buskman is with us as well. Mr. Worthless Eater, thank you so much for being with us on the live chat today. BlackRock is a mega RICO statute offender. They are corporate gangsters. How the hell are they still in business and not locked up? Well, they have willing and complicit partners in Washington, D.C., both Democrats and Republicans. And that's how they get away with it. They divide us. They splinter our movements. They divide America. They inject chaos. And then they're off to the races. Yes, Shannon, we are in PSYOPs. It feels like we are in PSYOPs 24/7. Proctor Surf, we are not going to win this through school boards and city council and voting and buying gold. We only win against the monolith when we stop paying taxes and when we boycott their products. I love that idea, Proctor Surf. I'm an all of the above kind of gal. I love local organization. I love activating at the local level. I love using cash. I love buying gold. I love omitting ourselves from their systems, rejecting digital IDs, organizing at the local level. I think that the culture is able to push back by just simply not complying. And frankly, personally, I don't know that I will ever vote in a federal or national election ever again, because I think that they're rigged. I think it's all a show. I think it's a circus. That's just my opinion. You guys can disagree with me, but that's where I am at this point. But I agree. I think that your sentiment is valid. M. Garth Hilton, instead of the soap operas and Fuentes and Owens, build constitutional solutions with tacticalcivics.org. I love that organization. Tactical Civics is actually organizing local people all over the country. They have thousands of chapters, I believe, and members. If you can go to tacticalcivics.org and get more information on what they do. I really appreciate all the work that you do, M. Garth Hilton. And keep up that great work. I love the idea of organizing at that local level. So that is all we have time for today. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of our sponsors here on the Shannon Joy Show. We could not bring the show to you without them. Please patronize them if you're in the market for any of their goods or services. Make sure you go to my website, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. Sign up for my daily email so that you never, ever, ever miss an episode of the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.